Nigerians aspire for the fruits of democracy to manifest in quality infrastructure and investment in human capital development. According to the reviewed National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, Nigeria needs an investment of $2.3 trillion over the next 30 years to close its public infrastructure deficit. The current administration under President Bola Tinubu grapples with a huge debt burden. Nigeria's public debt stock, which includes external and domestic debt, stood at 121.67 trillion naira in first quarter of 2024. Driven by the need to fulfill citizens' desires, the federal government focuses on enhancing revenue generation by creating a conducive environment for business growth. Against this backdrop, examining the tax reform bills, also known as the new tax bill, becomes necessary. In an endeavor to establish a cohesive fiscal framework governing taxation in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu introduced and presented the tax reform bills to the National Assembly in October 2024, an amalgamation of 4 distinct bills. The tax reform bills consisting of the Joint Revenue Board of Nigeria Bill 2024, Nigeria Revenue Service Bill 2024, Nigeria Tax Administration Bill 2024, and Nigeria Tax Bill 2024 currently have passed the second reading stage in the Senate. This is aimed at overhauling the country's fiscal policies. The reform focuses on value-added tax, VAT adjustments, corporate tax restructuring, a tax tribunal with statutory responsibilities to settle disputes, and targeted incentives for medium and small-size enterprises, technology, and manufacturing. The goal is clear: to simplify the tax system, increase government revenue, and stimulate growth.
Many of the laws that we have in Nigeria today around taxation we inherited from our colonial masters. For example, the stamp duty law is a law of 1939. In 1939, the world had not envisaged that there would be the internet. Trying to apply a law of 1939 in 2024 does not show that we are people that are ready for the next generation. Because of this, we decided that instead of amending our old laws that we inherited from the colonial masters, why don't we write new ones for ourselves? And this has been done in many countries across the world. This is what led to us trying to harmonize so many taxes that we have in Nigeria into few high revenue yielding, broad-based taxes, and eliminate those taxes that impose burden on our poorest people and small businesses so they can have the opportunity to thrive. It is when our people are prosperous that you have the ability to pay taxes. We do not want to tax capital anymore. We do not want to tax investments. We do not want to tax poverty. Of course, we do not want to tax seed. We will wait and tax the fruits when people have invested and they are making prosperity.
Let's briefly delve into the provisions of the new tax reform bills. The bills propose a change to the distribution of value-added tax, VAT. It recommends 10% for the federal government, 55% for state, and 35% for local government councils. It also increases the derivation reflected in the allocation distribution among states and local governments from 20% to 60% in the spirit of fairness. The reform bills advocate zero VAT on exports and essentials such as food, education, healthcare, renewable energy, rent, and public transportation. Addressing the needs of Nigerian workers, the bill provides an exemption from personal income tax for employees earning 800,000 naira and below annually. Other beneficiaries of this exemption include low-income households. To make the business climate more favorable, particularly for small businesses, the bill proposes a tax exemption of 50 million naira annual turnover for small businesses. doubling the 25 million naira turnover earlier recommended by the Taiwo Oyedele-led Presidential Committee for Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. This section of the bill also grants tax relief to small businesses with total assets of 250 million naira, broadening the scope of beneficiaries. This serves as an economic stimulus for vital economic sectors and enables growth. To tackle the issue of multiple taxation, the bill proposes a reduction in the current company income tax to be implemented in two phases: 27.5% in 2025 and 25% in 2026. Furthermore, the bill introduces a 4% development levy payable until 2029. Subsequently, by 2030, the development levy will decrease to 2%, designated solely for the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. As a result, the new tax bill phases out the 2.5% education tax, 0.25% National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure tax, and 1% National Information Technology Development levy, aiming to consolidate the various taxes and levies companies pay. The new tax bill emphasizes the importance of registering and utilizing tax identification number TIN to improve tax compliance and data collection. The bill serves as an update to tax laws reflecting current developments. It addresses the rise of digital businesses and emerging sectors, ensuring tax provisions align with modern economic activities to help enhance government revenue. Regarding tax administration, the bill seeks to enhance compliance and improve coordination between FIRS and state tax authorities. Reducing redundancies and strengthening enforcement will increase revenue generation at lower collection costs. Supporters of the tax reform bills highlight several key benefits, harping on the need for streamlined tax processes that could reduce bureaucratic hurdles and foster an environment where businesses thrive.
After Nigeria, in West Africa, the second lowest VAT rate is 15%. Okay? It's weird that in Nigeria we want the best of everything as long as we don't have to pay taxes. Across the developed world, there are countries where people pay as much as 18, 20, 25% tax, even in Africa, VAT. So it's a welcome development. And of course, while you look at, the percentage in and of itself, I think what you should also look at is that while VAT is going up, many goods have been exempted from paying VAT. So if you're buying food items from the shelves now, there's a VAT component. Going forward, the VAT component will be removed. The same thing for medicines and healthcare and a lot of other things. And of course, considering the fact that now that the companies that are paying VAT are currently paying education tax, paying cybersecurity levy, paying a whole lot of other things. So by the time you pull out a lot of these components from the taxes they are paying, yes, VAT will go up, but as an aggregate, taxes could actually go down. I also understand that there's a portion, especially if you're investing in infrastructure, of your VAT that you get to reclaim because you are spending it on things that will be around in the country for a long run. But really, moving the VAT from 7 to 15% is in line with global best practices.
For example, in terms of our own operation, we have a lot of taxes that is coming from the federal, coming from the state, even from the local government. So I'm of the opinion that implementation of this tax reform will eventually streamline the whole process of bringing every tax administration into a singular format. And also imagine that you are having all different manners of taxations. People coming to our company today, they are from local government, other people are from state, then from federal. So if we have a uniform tax administration, I think it's only just natural that seamless process we definitely address a whole lot of issues. So for me, the time of me attending to someone from local government, attending to someone from the state, someone from the federal government would have actually done the diverted into a more productive activity within my operations.
Despite their potential benefits, the reforms have sparked heated debates. Some critics of the tax reform bills cite inadequate consultation with critical stakeholders as a reason for their opposition. Other challengers argued that the bills have the tendency to create fiscal crisis in some states and further impoverish Nigerians. A major contentious part of the bill is the section dealing with VAT distribution. Governors of the 19 northern states, traditional rulers and stakeholders from the region have voiced concerns about the distribution of VAT based on derivation.
VAT could be addressed in two ways. Okay, the first way affect everybody, and then the second way is what the leaders in the north are complaining about. The first way is on the increase in the VAT rate. We have never had a situation whereby progressive increase will be brought to VAT rate in any country in the world. From my region, I have never experienced it. So those that are attacking the bill, one, they are doing that in view of the formula they discovered, which may not be, will not augur well for them on the VAT allocation. And then secondly, they may be having the feeling that this law was just designed to favor Lagos State in the course of its own effort to become a state that has special status. Okay? It says so that will make it to be seen as if it is a country of its own, even though it's not up to the level of country, but it is higher than all other states in the country. Probably this may be the reason why they are agitating. The one that you can see clearly is on this issue of VAT. And then they have other suspicion. So that is another worry that I have. The issue of trust. Trust, what do some experts call trust deficit. Yes, will be promoted greatly by these bills if corrective measures are not taken.
Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Zulum expressed that VAT provisions in the bill would only benefit Lagos and River states. Zulum advised the federal government to take a pause and expunge some of the clauses which it claims are inimical to the North. Responding to Northern Governors' opposition to the proposed VAT sharing formula, Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, says the misconception about the proposal to increase VAT shared to states from 20% to 60% is based on the erroneous understanding that the proposed 60% would be based on the current remittance model of derivation with the headquarters effect. He clarified that the proposal is 60% based on the consumption model of derivation.
There's a whole lot of politics around the conversation on what VAT should be. The northern elders and leaders are well aware that this reform is good for the national interest. And I think what people really should have focused on is not to argue about the current state of things. People should be focused on going forward. How is the northern state going to industrialize in the face of the challenge that the economy generally or globally is facing? Why is this suspicion? The suspicion is because Lagos is industrialized. Lagos is industrialized because they have created an ecosystem for businesses to prosper. And this is what should be replicated in all the states of the Federation, so there should be no fear. Now, we are not changing the revenue allocation formula for the consolidated revenue account. That's not changing. It's only VAT, which is just supplementary to the normal sharing formula. I think everybody should really be consoled. For us, it's a progressive move, and I think Nigeria need this. We've talked about People talk about how to redefine our federation for too long, but I think these are the definite moves that actually will portray us as federation and not a unitary state.
So many people have actually been clamoring for adjustments and changes in the tax system, because the basis for which these existing tax structures were formed, Nigeria has actually moved beyond those levels and beyond those stages. So they are no longer favorable to the present economic situation of the country. You can imagine someone that earns a minimum salary of about 800,000 per annum is still paying about 80-something thousand, which we may say kind of minimum tax to a personal person, not even talking about company now. And even with the present tax system, a company that does not make profit is even paying tax. I totally agree with the new reform that is actually ongoing. So the fiscal policy of the government, which is based on this reform, is to, in a way, address it. Let me give you an instance. The income tax relief for low earners. So, like the existing one, if you are earning 800K as your minimum, you are paying 1% on that. But with this new reform, 800 and below, you are not paying tax, you are exempted. Is that not a relief?
In the same vein, Oyedele says there is a need for urgency in the passage of the tax reform bills to provide relief for businesses and Nigerians who are experiencing multi-dimensional poverty, stating that the Finance Act will become null and void once the tax reform is enacted. The draft of the tax reform bill was framed by a team led by Taiwo Oyedele, chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. President Tinubu inaugurated the committee in August 2023 and tasked it with improving fiscal governance, simplifying the tax system, and enhancing economic growth. According to the leader of the 10th Senate, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, the new tax bill reflects the present administration's commitment to equity, efficiency, and sustainable development. The tax reform bill has scaled second reading at the National Assembly and is now before the Senate Committee on Finance for more stakeholder engagements. Ultimately, it is hoped that what is right for Nigeria's fiscal future and economy prevails.